Alright, for those who missed it, let me catch you up to speed. About a month ago, I decided to play every Virtual Boy game there was to play. From Mario Clash, Jack Bros, and some Japanese exclusive titles like Shadow Over Innsmouth. I played them all, even some unreleased games and prototypes. And while I found most of the library skippable and inoffensive, I found some pretty fun games. It's the ones I mentioned already, mostly, but I decided to save what is widely considered the best game on the console for a full in-depth review. This is Wario Land on the Virtual Boy. First things first, unlike a large number of the Virtual Boy games on the console, this game is a full-blown adventure. Not to say that Jack Bros or Innsmouth game wasn't full-blown adventures, but there's a lot of titles on the console that were more arcade-like in nature. Actually, a lot of the games were puzzle games for some odd reason. I know puzzle games have plenty of fans, but for people like me, nah, I'm not a puzzle game fan at all. So, a large chunk of the Virtual Boys lineup just didn't do it for me from the get-go. Also, there was a noticeable lack of platformers, yeah. Mario Clash and this game, Wario Land, are the only platformers on the console itself. However, emulation may be worth it for this game alone. Yeah, the better half of the gaming world who has tried this game mentions that this game is easily the best on the Virtual Boy, but they also mention that this game is a perfectly fine platformer and worth a look into if you like the genre. I love platformers, so let's go. Wario is back and in red and black, purple and black, thanks to my emulator. So let's wrap up this look into the failed console of Nintendo. Let's take on the Virtual Boy! Round 2. Believe it or not, this game was actually released after Wario Land on the Game Boy. Actually, since that game is a tagline, I guess this is the first game that's just called Wario Land. This works since Mario isn't in the game at all anyway. Actually, there isn't much of a story here either. Wario's in a plane that he owns for some odd reason, and he sits down for a nap. While napping, Wario wakes up and sees some weird tribe of creatures hauling away treasure. What luck! Wario, of course, follows. He sees that the tribe has sealed away the treasure past a large door. A door sealed by talismans or keys. They're basically magic gold statues. The gold statues take off and Wario falls all the way down to the bottom of this massive ancient civilization's cavern. Time to reach the top. And yeah, that's the story. There are machines in the caverns and even a haunted house floor, I guess? Yeah, nothing really actually connects or world builds here. It's just a bunch of levels that happen to have these ancient civilization things. I don't know. Don't get me wrong. With Wario, treasure is indeed his leading motivation. But something connecting the floors story-wise would have been nice. Outside of that, these floors just don't make any sense with any type of story. Now, luckily, the presentation doesn't care about the story, and these environments look great. The sprites are detailed, and each location is varied enough to really stand out. The level backgrounds are memorable, and while the color palette is lacking due to the Virtual Boy limitations, the sprite designs are so damn impressive. Wario looks incredibly expressive in this game, giving him a ton of flair. The enemies are well crafted, and the boss designs are imposing with a hint of silly to them. The sound effects in the game when you collect things is great too, along with the tracks for the OST. Yeah, the OST works really well here. The issue with the Virtual Boy games is the sound limitation is awful, making a lot of the tracks on the console sound like a toy speaker is producing them over an actual, console. However, Wario Land works in these limitations and still produces some decent bops, like the boss music or Area 1 even. Theme 2 is a bit fun, and Theme 3 sounds like a crazy Game Boy Zelda theme, with some of the same note placements as Theme 2. Actually, Theme 4 is a bit familiar too. Okay, most of the music is just the same arrangement, but thematically different. However, the music is a good blend of atmosphere and bouncy. The game actually does a good job of taking one major arrangement and turning it into different tracks, something other games could learn from. I sure wish all the tracks were completely different, but this still works at the end of the day. Along with the excellent sprite quality, this game is pretty damn charming. Even the backgrounds look fantastic, and all of the level layouts look completely different. There's a decent and pretty new credits theme, though, which is nice. So there is that if you want to complain about the OST a little bit more. And the final boss track seems original enough. Actually, the final boss track reminds me of Hotel Delfino for some baffling reason. Overall, though, I'd still say all of this works in my book. So let's take it down a notch and talk about the gameplay. In the original game, I mentioned that Wario moved rather slow. I guess someone agreed and sped him up a ton in this game. That is the biggest obstacle to get over in this game. Wario's speed. There are tricks to slowing him down if you need to, but damn, sometimes it is a bit much. Swimming, his shoulder check, and flying all move at near breakneck pacing compared to the first game, and hell, even the fourth. It isn't terrible, but something to note and get used to. Overall, though, Wario is a lot like his 8-bit version from the first game, including the power-ups. Take a hit and you're small Wario. Garlic can help you get bigger. Another thing with Garlic gives you the horn hat, which lets you ground pound. It isn't as useful as the first game, it just lets you ground pound. But if you find a spiky power-up, you can turn into the spike hat from small Wario. That's kind of pointless. Now for the good power-ups. You can find fire power-ups and eagle power-ups. These give Wario much better hats in general. The eagle power-up allows for flight. It isn't infinite flight, mind you, but it's super useful for trickier platforming segments. It isn't also required outside of some secrets and maybe one or two gaps that I swear small Wario can't cross. But maybe a big shoulder check from Wario can. So, use Big Wario for that gap. Either way, it shouldn't be needed all that much, but it is super useful. As for the fire, this just gives Wario his ground pound and a flamethrower instead of a shoulder check. Yeah, the hat can't cross some of these gaps, especially on the fire lava level, but here's the cool part though. You can combine these hats. If you're wearing the eagle hat or the dragon hat and you find the other power-up, you get the flying dragon hat. This flies and shoots fire missiles, which is awesome. The missiles will fly across the screen really fast until it hits something, and you can still fly and ground pound, which is excellent. All in all, Wario playing faster than his Game Boy counterpart is actually a plus, but his power-up system is improved as well, making for a very fun experience. Now, as for the levels, all of them are pretty different. One moment you're dealing with watermelons and launching them, the next you're in a haunted house. Each level of the cavern literally has a different theme and gimmick, completely isolating it from the other levels of the cavern, leading for some really creative level design. None of these levels are bad, but I'll call foul in one level. The haunted house is fun, but finding the dang key is easily missed. The key is hidden in a clock that's moving differently than the other clocks, and you basically have to wait for the clock to open up. Weird. Most of these clocks spawn enemies. Honestly though, outside of this, nothing in the levels are too awfully bad to deal with. Let me break it down. The only way to beat the level is to find the key hidden within the said level, and then find the exit. You have a time limit too though, and I never really had an issue with it. This game has 15 levels, some of which are just boss fights, but the levels are bigger and made to explore, more so than the Game Boy levels were. You have to explore in this game in an effort to find the key and pass the locked gate at the end. You can't move on unless you explore it. This is brilliant. Each level also is completely varied. My favorite already mentioned is the watermelon farm and the haunted house despite the key issues. There's also a really cool castle-like level that I absolutely loved, and even a jungle level that was really fun. Now let's talk about the boss fights. These are a bit rough to get used to. The boss fights all have incredibly difficult patterns to learn and memorize, but I wouldn't say it's unfair either. The first boss has a whip, which you have to make some tough jumps to dodge and attack, while the second to last boss fights bouncing around and fires at you aggressively with a machine gun. The only way I found to fight him is to just be as aggressive as he is, bouncing between the foreground and the background like a psycho, which is definitely a gimmick of the game. You can bounce between foreground and background. The game was supposed to be 3D. I didn't play it in 3D. It still works, by the way. The final boss is difficult too. Hitting him while bouncing between the two drums and hitting him in the face when he's low enough. Great fight though, honestly. And if I'm going to be real with you guys, honestly, all the boss fights are pretty damn good. Yeah, they're challenging and they're really rough to take down. But at the end of the day, they're still really good along with all of the levels. Very complimentary. So obviously exploration is a really big part of this game. But is there anything to do besides grab a key and move on? Oh yeah, there's a couple of things. One is collecting treasure, which is everywhere. You can find coins and diamonds, which, yeah, diamonds act as one-up in this game. There are so many treasure spots, this game is really rewarding for exploration. If you get coins, you can use them for minigames, and in the minigames, you can get more hearts and coins. Hearts only really build up to extra lives, and unless you're on hard mode, I rarely needed more extra lives. Coins are fun, though. I'm emulating, so I can actually save state and cheat to build up my coins, which is kind of funny. Yeah, the gambling game isn't as random as you may think. Best part is, while the bags of money the bats are holding are predetermined, they actually show you which bag has the money in it at the end of the minigame, too. Save states for the win. Get enough coins at the end of the game and you get a better ending, along with all the talismans. Well, I call them that. They're actually really statues. At the beginning of the game, Wario sees a massive door with a ton of treasure hidden behind it, locked by golden statues. There is a statue hidden in every level of the game outside of the boss fight rooms. They aren't too hard to find, but are typically harder to get than other treasures. The only one I can really say I had a difficult time with was the forest level. It was level 3 or 4. That one was nearly impossible to find. I scoured the entire level and eventually had to start hitting random walls to find a breakable wall leading to a diamond. I knew better. Not only is this area hard to find, but there's a secret area within this area that hides the damn statue. Ugh. But unlike the first game, I actually felt like collecting them all. Yeah, the statues help get a better ending, which I didn't mind. I didn't get the best ending here, but I did okay. The statues are all goofy looking in hard mode too, which you unlock after restarting the game after beating it. That's pretty cool. If you guys like a harder challenge, by all means, play hard mode. It's pretty rough, not gonna lie. Overall, this game is a solid 8 out of 10. This game is great, and I highly recommend playing this through emulation. Unless Nintendo re-releases this anyway. Yeah, like a lot of other Virtual Boy games, this could use a remake of sorts, with better colors and less reliance on the 3D aspect. There were a few times, particularly in the final level, which 3D all of a sudden became kind of important, causing minor issues, the fact that I didn't have it. But minor is the key word. The only real issues with this game I have is the story. Everything else did a bang-up job of making this a really fun game, and on the Virtual Boy too. The gameplay is fast with solid power-ups, the levels are pretty damn good, with only minor flaws. The secrets are fun to collect outside of, that one statue. There's even a hard mode to mess with if you like that sort of thing. Out of all the Virtual Boy games, which are often more arcade-like, this game stands out. This is a solid adventure platformer in a sea of arcade games, and it stands out highly. It's a great game. That and the other games on the console aren't exactly platformers. There's some adventure ones where there's a beginning and end, sure, but they're not platformers, so there's that. Either way, this is all the time I have. I have completely defeated the Virtual Boy. If you liked the video, please leave a like, hit the bell, and leave comments. All of that crap really does help my channel. I would love to talk about the Virtual Boy a bit more, too. So by all means, leave a comment. Let me see if you guys have ever had a Virtual Boy, if you know what I'm even talking about, or if you care to play the games. Either way, take care, my minions.